Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and this is my 31 days of horror movie reviews. And this is the film that I watched way back then, and I decided to rewatch it. I'm talking about The Midnight Meat Train. This is a 2008 film that was directed by, you know what, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this director's name because, goddamn, I'm going to destroy it. I will. But it was based on a short story written by Clive Barker, who I'm sure you've heard of, who he's invented and created such crazy horror films like Hellraiser and countless many more. So this movie, it stars Bradley Cooper. Yes, Bradley Cooper before he was really big, doing a horror film. He plays Leon, who's this photographer that's struggling. He's not doing all that well. He's trying to get the approval, get his picture sold to this gallery. And so he decides to think outside the box, take some risk. He takes pictures of people late at night. He stumbles upon this girl who's about to get mugged or worse, and he saves her. But she gets on this train and then disappears. So he decides to look into that, and as he's looking into that, he stumbles across the subway butcher. Here's a guy who is he stays on this late night train and kills people in some bloody, gruesome, and vicious ways. So Bradley Cooper not only is trying to find out who he is, but why this is going on, and now he's going to base the story all around this. What I think of The Midnight Meat Train is, I don't really care for this movie. I'll be honest. When I first watched this years and years ago, I thought it was creepy. I thought it had its scary moments. I thought it was really intense. It was bloody, gory, gruesome, everything that it was probably going for. And then it took too much of a dark turn for me. Then it went too far out there, too gross, too over the top in that way. Bradley Cooper, I will say that he is very good in this movie. Not too much of a stretch to think that Bradley Cooper was good acting in a movie. And especially when you see how big that he's gotten now. Oscar nominated, just so many great movies, you can go on and on. Seeing him in this horror film, I think maybe sort of elevates it a little bit more. I'm fine with his character being somewhat, I don't want to say a dick, but he's definitely kind of all for himself and he's out for the story. I'm not even necessarily sure how much he gives a shit about the missing persons versus just getting his career back on track. Vinnie Jones plays the subway butcher, and Vinnie Jones is great as well. He's silent, but he's deadly. He just has that creepy demeanor about him where he just sits there on the train in his business suit with his briefcase and obviously weapons. But when he just gets up and decides to attack and go after these seemingly random innocent people on this train, it's hard to watch. It's gross. It is. I'll have to say it. There's one scene in particular where he attacks these three people, one of them being Ted Raimi, of course. Ted Raimi loves being in random horror films where he gets killed in brutal ways. And when he gets struck in the back of the head, though, his eyeball comes out of his head, and it's very CGI looking. And that's a kill. That's a moment where I thought, it's way too fake looking. I couldn't really get into it. But there's plenty of other deaths, though, where it is more realistic. It is more practical effects. There are scenes where he's cutting into bodies and cutting eyeballs out and ripping teeth out, and that, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about it. Especially when I rewatched it, I thought, like, man, I kind of forgot how gruesome some of the stuff was when he's stringing up the bodies with hooks and just, like, that stuff, when it looks real, that's where it gets me. It's a little far-fetched, though, when you're watching the film and Bradley Cooper's desperately trying to get these people to believe him, this detective and even his girlfriend, and nobody really believes him, and you can't blame them. The story does sound far-fetched, but it's hard to believe that Vinnie Jones has this operation going. He's killing all these people. Blood's everywhere all over these trains, and nobody really notices. Nobody realizes that all these people are missing, and that all this is going on. It's a little far-fetched. You're sitting there kind of going like, I don't know. Until you realize that there's more going on. I don't know how much I should get into this. I don't. I mean, maybe I can do a minor spoiler talk near the end here, but before I do, let's talk about some of the other actors. Rampage Jackson, yes, the MMA fighter, is in this movie. He has one decent scene where he almost fights Vinnie Jones off, but of course he gets killed. Brooke Shields plays this gallery owner. Brooke Shields, completely forgot she was in this movie. She still looks good, for what it's worth, if that means anything. So the movie itself, I'll say up until the point that we're talking about, I think it's fine. I think it's maybe a little too violent and bloody, but I'm not going to knock points off for the film for that. A little far-fetched in some other areas with this whole organization. Like, you find out that there's a lot more to this, the secret society of this train. I guess that explains how it gets covered up, but okay, fine. I'm still trying to go along with it. And I had the same thought the very first time I watched it. Here we go with the spoilers. I hope you guys are ready. Now, at the very end of the film, you find out that Bradley Cooper is sort of being groomed to take over the role because Vinnie Jones is getting older and he's losing his touch. He's not as consistent as he once was. So now this organization wants Bradley Cooper to join. And you get to the very end of the movie, you see this underground area filled with human remains and bones. You see these creatures, these demons, or whatever the fuck they are, who are living there and feeding off of flesh. And I guess that's why these people are being killed, to feed, and these people sort of watch over them and protect them because... That's where it lost me. That's where I thought, okay, this is way too next level. This is way too supernaturally. This is way too out of the realm. I get that some people might like that. Some people might like a supernatural twist on their horror films. And, obviously sometimes it works for me too. But I was more connected to the movie when it was just, or it seemed like a dude. It seemed like a dude who was batshit crazy, who was a sick fuck, and he would just go on these trains and kill people. That scared me a lot more. That was something that I was sort of more intrigued by, following Bradley Cooper trying to reveal this to the world. Like, that was a more compelling story to me. When you get to the part where they kill his girlfriend, played by Leslie Bibb, I don't know if I mentioned her, Leslie Bibb, plays his girlfriend. I like this actress a lot, but she dies brutally. She gets her heart ripped out. I mean, it's gross. And then Bradley Cooper, he gets his tongue ripped out, and then he's forced to join them. And then, so the ending is just Bradley Cooper joins them, becomes the new butcher, and then cut credits. And I just, again, I didn't like it. If I was enjoying the movie, or if I was getting something positive out of the film, it all went downhill from there. It all got ruined. It's one of those situations where the ending definitely ruined the movie for me. I read some comments online from people who enjoyed this all the way through, who loved the ending. I even saw some comments of people saying that they think this whole creatures living underground and people feeding them, I mean, maybe they're bullshitting, but they think this is real and that the Mayans predicted this shit. I'm like, okay, alright, you guys are losing me here. This is fucking ridiculous. This movie, though, I could leave it. It's not something that I never really need to see again. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of the Midnight Meat Train. Do you like it as well, or do you think, like I think, it's a little too much, a little too out there, went too far? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later! Souls taken over by a devilish path. You got me walking on broken glass, kicking down the door with a Jason mask.
with a dead dumb machete, but you motherfuckers know it's heavy. Anytime you're ready, you can get you with a bogey. Setting up the blow me, but the bitch don't know me. Who's going, I'm going, you know. I know that the man in the mirror is my next rival. Time goes and I never thought I'd live it so fast. Staring at the world from the end of my glass. Turn into a dark place, sever my brain.